Results are probably the scariest but the easiest section to write. What you need to do is to write a basic sentence that this is two sentences, but to just kind of complete these two sentences. To test the hypothesis that, describe your hypothesis, right? We used a describe your test. Results from this test suggest the hypothesis was either it was supported, significant and the result was in the correct direction. So for a t-test, your means were different in the direction you predicted. For like a correlation, the correlation was positive if you predicted a positive correlation, so forth. Disconfirmed, you have a significant result in the wrong direction, so you predicted a positive correlation, but it was negative. You predicted that the control group would be less than the experimental group, but it was more, right? So that's disconformed. We're inconclusive. Non-significant results mean nothing. So you got to call it inconclusive. After you state that results from this test suggest the hypothesis was supported, let's say, put a semicolon and you add statistical notation sentences. You can find these wherever I teach you about stats. But here's an example for a t-test. A t-test with 10 degrees of freedom equals 3.20. You don't report more than 2 decimals in APA style. Sometimes you put a number before the decimal place. Sometimes you don't. That is determined by whether or not the statistic can be greater than 1. A p-value cannot be greater than 1, so thus you don't include a number before the decimal place. So p equals 0.05. Semicolon Cohen's d, I just put d in there, equals 0.50, 0.25, 0.75. That means a confidence interval. Parentheses, see figure 1, right? So if you have a significant result, then you have to describe what figure 1 shows, right? If it's not significant, it's pretty clear that if it's inconclusive, you don't know. And if it's disconfirmed significant, you have to still report it. So really, like if you say the results are inconclusive, see figure 1, people can see the graph and figure it out for themselves. This is all you have to do for every statistical test you ran to test the hypothesis. We use this test. Results from this test show something. Super easy. On the next page, on the next slide, I put it all together. But that's basically it. You do that for every statistical test you ran. At most, I think we're running 3 in my classes. So this is not that much information. To test the hypothesis that empathy would improve pain treatment decision-making, a t-test was conducted. This test indicates that our hypothesis was confirmed. Empathy increases pain treatment. Then I add my statistical notation. Right, that t is italicized, that 12 is degree of freedom, that equals my t result 3.20, comma p equals nothing 0.05, my d equals 0.15 because d's can be greater than 1. See figure 1. Now, for advanced students, a post hoc test is another test. So you would treat the post hoc test just like you treated any other test. For students in Research Methods 1, where we're not there yet, don't worry about it. Now, this is the APA style figure. And if you notice, your figure, put it on its own page at the end. At the end of your document for now. We'll get all this figured out in the APA section. But if you're making figures right now, each figure has a title, right? Figure 1. You see that, right? Well, it has a name, figure 1. Then it has a title that's essentially changes in the DV as a function of the IV. Then you put your image or figure there. Now, there aren't very many limitations on the figures, but there are some stuff that are historical, that have been changed, that do matter. But they say we don't want different shadings. We don't want that much color, right? Unless you absolutely need it. But if you look at this graph, there's no grid lines. Okay, there's no grid lines. There's no 3D. There's no BS, right? You got your X and Y axis. They have titles. Y axis is DV. X axis is an IV. You have a legend if you have more than one IV. And you have things, descriptors underneath that you can, like a figure caption that you can describe. Those are going to be optional for my class. The figure captions aren't really essential for the way I teach, for the way I teach research methods and for the really basic results we're describing. If you wanted to do a figure caption, you could describe group differences. You could describe whatever you want. You can go look at that. If you have something weird you want to describe in your figure, go ahead and use those figure captions. But that's basically it, right? You write a few sentences. You describe the hypothesis you're testing, what test you used to do it, what your results showed. You refer to the figure. I do believe every analysis that we do should be connected to a figure, all right? And so for us in our class, this is what we're going to do. If a publisher tells us to get rid of that figure, of course we will, right? Some people say you don't really need a t-test figure if you put the two means and standard deviations in the text. That is true, but I think making the figures is important as well. But that's basically it. Your results are now done, right? Write one sentence per each analysis you ran. In Research Methods 1, that's one sentence. Well, I mean, it's like one, sentence block, like those, what I said earlier. And then for Research Methods 2, it's, I think, 3 sentences, not the end of the world. What hypothesis you're testing, what test you used, what you found, what figure is related to it.